Social studies teachers often have a bad reputation for lecturing too much or being boring, but it doesn't have to be this way. In today's video, I'm sharing lecture alternatives, so if you have found yourself lecturing and not really loving it, these options might be a better fit for you. Hello and welcome to episode 4 of We Teach History, the show here on the Mr. and Mrs. Social Studies YouTube channel to help social studies and history teachers improve their teaching and try out new skills in their classrooms. Today we're talking about lecture alternatives. First, I want to share how you can still traditionally lecture with a few different options, so it's not just a passive, I'm talking at my students and they're writing down what I'm saying to mix it up, as well as different options that are completely different and don't require any lecturing at all. First, let's say you are still giving traditional lectures, but you're looking for something instead of having the students just write down notes in a notebook or something. An option is to have a guided note sheet. So rather than have the students write down everything, the guided note sheet takes care of a lot of the work for them, and they are just filling in additional details here and there. This is pretty easy to set up. If you are using a PowerPoint or slideshow, you could take the text, fill it out on some sort of document, leave some blanks here and there, or give some space where students can write in additional details. This takes some of the burden of writing everything down off the students, as well as it might be a way to help them stay more organized. And you can also get through slides a lot quicker if you are presenting it, just because sometimes when students are writing everything, it slows the process down. A graphic organizer can also be a great way to help support students while there is a lecture, but allowing them to draw better conclusions. It's not just linear, like write this down in the order I talk about it, but the graphic organizer can fit different pieces together in a cool and helpful way. You can also opt for Doodle Notes, in which maybe you provide more of like the guided notes and kids are drawing pictures that connect to the information and figuring out a way that they can visually represent whatever is being talked about. This is especially great if you've got students who love drawing anyway. It connects their love of drawing to your course curriculum. Finally, this is a little silly, but you totally could dress up in character as you are giving a lecture. You bring it to life by literally being one of the characters, and it gives a lot of excitement to the students. It is also a lot more fun for you as you are going through the lesson, and it just makes it a very memorable day. Let's say though that you don't want to do any more of those traditional lectures where you are up in front talking. There are options. You could opt for more of a flipped classroom perspective where you film your lecture ahead of time. You can decide what approach you want to take. I did this more so for Spanish concepts, like grammar videos that I put together, and I know that the kids did often find them to be a helpful resource. However, it was not something I would necessarily do all the time, but if you do go through and record yourself talking through the slides, there are going to be students that benefit from that, and it means that it can take away some of the time of you actually being upfront talking through it with your students, and you can be more engaged in helping support them in other ways or doing more interactive activities. So that can be a good approach. You could also do a WebQuest or a grid method. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, make sure you do that because the next episode of We Teach History is all about the grid method and using it for social studies. So stay tuned, but let's say you are building these. You can build a grid, a hyperdoc, a WebQuest for whatever topic you would be lecturing about. Compile some short videos, online activities, or online texts about whatever the topic is, and compile these in one place. So students are interacting with material, but it's not necessarily you who is explaining all of it to them. They are able to learn about it through these different avenues. Station activities can be a lot of fun because rather than presenting this information, you could incorporate the information in different stations around the room. Now, it could just be more of a passive station where, let's say you printed out the slides and displayed them and students wrote them out as they were walking around the room. It could be as passive or simple as that, but could also be more engaging activities that allow them to connect with the material a bit more. For example, Jake recently in his class, when teaching Mesopotamia, used a Life in Sumer station activity. I will link that below if you're interested. And it took the students through so many different parts of life in Sumer, and rather than just going over some notes about it, the kids were experiencing it. So they had the chance to practice writing cuneiform just like the scribes would have done. Students took the common crops grown in Sumer and had to design a meal plan of something they might eat during the day. Students had to look closely at a map of these different Sumerian city-states and determine which one would make the most sense for them to live in. These different activities take it to the next level, but it's still the same kind of information you would have talked through with them, but they're just more so doing it on their own. Finally, I love doing simulations or simulations combined with a little bit of lecture. And that's sort of the debriefing portion. So one of my favorite simulations that I did was for opening the West or westward expansion, more so at the 8th grade level. So we're looking at Homestead Act, the different miners and ranchers who were moving out west. The simulation takes students through 4 different aspects of society, and each round the students have to make a decision, and they'll either gain or lose points based upon the decision that they make. So it's got that competitive element, it's a lot of fun, and at the end of every single situation, we debrief it. We talk about why they maybe gained or lost points based upon what actually happened in history. And that's a way where students are having fun. It's a game-based simulation. It's got that competitive element. They don't actually really realize that they're learning, and they don't actually realize that you are explaining things to them just like you would if it was a more formal structure, but it's in a way that's a lot more fun. If you're interested in that topic as well, I will leave that linked below. So those are just a couple examples of how you can switch up your lectures, but I'd love to hear your opinion in the comments. Do you think any of these could be a good approach for lecturing in your class? Let me know. Have a great week, and we'll talk soon. Bye.